The Jaghut, an ancient non-human elder race, are one of the foundational intelligent species of the Malazan world. Notoriously solitary and powerful, they are known for their sorcery tied to ice and their stoic demeanor towards life and death. The Jaghut society is defined by their individualism, with little to no social structure binding them, which starkly contrasts with the communal nature of other races in the Malazan universe. This individualism is rooted in their philosophy to avoid the tyranny that arises from power structures, reflecting their deep aversion to imposing their will on others. Despite their fearsome reputation, the Jaghut are often portrayed with a dry sense of humor and a profound sense of morality, showing compassion that belies their formidable appearance. The Jaghuts' interaction with other races and their impact on the world's history are nuanced. While often misunderstood and feared by many, their legacy is of solitude and profound understanding. Their unique perspective on life, power and freedom offers a compelling counterpoint to the more expansionist and empire-building ambitions of human societies within the Malazan world. The Jaghut, distinguished by their solitary nature and formidable strength, were pivotal figures in the world's ancient history, coming into prominence after the fall of the T'lan Imass. This era saw the Jaghut asserting dominance, a stark contrast to their earlier subjugation under the T'lan Imass, mirroring the later dominion of Jaghut tyrants over the Imass. The history of races in the Malazan world shows a struggle for supremacy among the Forkral Assail Jaghut and T'lan Imass. The Forkral Assail were the first to recede from this contest, leaving the Jaghut and T'lan Imass in a ceaseless conflict. The Jaghuts' downfall was attributed to their individualistic nature, which not only set them at odds with their enemies, but also with each other, undermining their collective strength and leading to their eventual decline in the face of relentless warfare with the T'lan Imass. Physically, the Jaghut were imposing figures, notably taller and more robust than humans, characterized by their distinctive tusked lower jaws. Their skin bore a grey-green hue, complemented by predominantly grey hair. The Jaghut had uniquely structured hands, with fingers that were elongated and featured additional joints compared to those of humans. Their anatomy included dual hearts and potentially other duplicated organs, akin to the T'lan Imass, underscoring their resilience and complex biology. Renowned for their extraordinary longevity, the Jaghut were essentially immortal, their lives only ending through violence or accidents. They had the capability to interbreed with humans and T'lan, adapted to thrive in frigid climates. They naturally gravitated towards Arctic environments, embodying their affinity for the cold, both in habitat and in their ice-based sorcery. The Jaghut were masters of the Warren of Omtos Felak, an elder racial warren that granted them dominion over ice, cold, stasis, and preservation. This warren was not just a tool for wielding elemental power, but also a means of profound influence, capable of inducing stagnation, isolating entire continents, thereby halting their magical development. A notable instance of this power was the isolation of the continent of Letha, which experienced a stagnation in its magical evolution for over 300,000 years, illustrating the Jaghuts' formidable control over their environment and the broader world. The Jaghuts' mastery of Omtos Felak was a defining aspect of their identity, with its relation with ice and cold. Their sorcery was not only a formidable weapon, but also a reflection of their stoic nature, as seen in the Jaghuts' ability to endure extreme cold and their resistance to the effects of their own magic. This resistance was evident in the Jaghuts' ability to withstand the cold of their own creation. The Jaghuts' sorcery was also characterized by its ability to manipulate the environment, as seen in the creation of ice fields and glaciers, reflecting their capacity to shape the world around them. The Jaghut did not gather in locations or create communities. They saw community as leading to power over others, leading to dominance, hunger for power, slavery, and a downward spiral into tyranny over all other living things. Although this notion that Jaghut society was inherently solitary is challenged by discoveries within Letherus, where Letheri historians have identified a complex of 3 ancient Jaghut towers believed to date from before a significant societal shift. This suggests that Jaghut culture might have once been more communal, undergoing a rapid and violent transformation leading to a widespread diaspora. The existence of these towers indicates a period when Jaghut might have lived in closer proximity, possibly engaging in communal activities before an event or series of events caused a dramatic restructuring of their societal norms, leading to their known solitary tendencies. They preferred solitary towers as dwellings, usually living with only their closest family. Despite this tendency towards isolation, their parental instincts were very strong, which resulted in a scaling up of conflicts with the T'lan Imass. If a parent was attacked, their spouse and children would come to fight with them, and vice versa. This could result in considerable devastation due to the scales of sorceries involved. The exception to the rules of isolation were the rare Jaghut known as Tyrants, for whom conquest and rule was an unslakable thirst. These individuals would use their powerful magical capabilities to enslave and dominate other races. It is said that Jaghut had once had great civilizations. The reasons for their fall and why the Jaghut lived in solitude were voluntary after discovering the ills of civilization itself. When the Imass first emerged as a race, they found themselves overshadowed by the formidable Jaghut, particularly by a minority within the Jaghut who rose as tyrants. These tyrants exploited the Imass's beliefs and compassion, masquerading as deities to enslave them for their own purposes, compelling the Imass into committing atrocities under the guise of divine command. This manipulation unfolded over countless generations, deeply embedding the deceit into the lives of Imass society before the truth of their manipulation came to light. This manipulation eventually ignited the Jaghut Wars, a protracted and bitter conflict that spanned millennia, pitting the Imass against the Jaghut tyrants with the support of some Jaghut who opposed the tyranny. The conflict was asymmetric, with the physically weaker but tenacious Imass facing the daunting magical prowess of the Jaghut, who wielded the ice flows of Omto's Felak to devastating effect, isolating and starving the Imass forces. From a psychological perspective, the prolonged subjugation and subsequent uprising against the Jaghut tyrants had profound implications for the T'lan Imass psyche as a race. The initial betrayal instilled a deep-seated mistrust towards not only the tyrants, but all Jaghut, catalyzing a collective trauma that would define Imass society. The realization that their gods were imposters shattered their spiritual beliefs, leading to an existential crisis that fundamentally altered their worldview. The war's brutality and the harsh lessons learned led the Imass to a radical conclusion. The extermination of the Jaghut was deemed necessary to prevent the emergence of new tyrants, reflecting a tragic shift from victim to aggressor driven by fear and a desire for survival at any cost. This decision marks a pivotal moment in Imass history. The suffering inflicted upon the Imass by the Jaghut tyrants was severe. The atrocities and enslavement that Imass endured under the Jaghut yoke are not merely historical events, they are ever-present memories, relived by the undying Imass throughout the millennia. This history of oppression has forged a deep-seated, never-ending hatred within Imass, a hatred that is as immortal as the Jaghut. With respect to Jaghut as a race, Caladan Brood once told Endes Silan that the Jaghut were unlike the other races of the Malazan world in that they gave far more to the world than they took. This was the reason why the Jaghut found the actions of the tyrants all the more reprehensible. When Silan attempted to describe them as stewards of the world, Brood corrected him, suggesting such a notion implied a superiority and arrogance the Jaghut did not possess. They did not see themselves as separate from the world, a state that implied the world could be reshaped for their own use, as if it were no more than a tool composed of a million parts. But the Jaghuts shared the world with the Forkral Assail, who were their opposites and a pure manifestation of arrogance and separation. The two races fought a long war that continued to the present day. As a result of the Tyrant Rest's actions in this regard, the Imass underwent the ritual of T'lan and became undead, and were thenceforth known as the T'lan Imass. For the battle between the T'lan Imass and the Jaghut, there was never any quarter given. If any trace of the Jaghut was found by the Imass, a pogrom was raised in which several clans converged on the site until all of the Jaghut were slain or the T'lan Imass army was wiped out. In extreme circumstances, sundering of blood was a profound ritual among the Jaghut, used to sever familial ties in dire situations. When Reist began his descent into tyranny, his mother invoked this ritual against him, a decision that devastated her but emancipated him. This act sheds light on the complex psychological dynamics within Jaghut society, highlighting the severe measures taken to prevent tyranny. The ritual's use on Reist may have contributed to his psychological development and eventual tyranny, illustrating a tragic paradox where measures meant to prevent domination instead possibly fuel a deeper descent into it. This aspect of Jaghut culture underscores the weight of individual actions and decisions within their isolated society, where the line between freedom and isolation can profoundly influence one's path. In the end, the Jaghut, with their long lives and individualistic nature, embody a complex psychological landscape. They face the existential dilemmas of immortality, the loneliness of isolation, and the moral struggle of power and resistance. Their interactions with other races and among themselves reveal a depth of character and emotion that shows their outwardly stoic and detached appearances. The legacy of the Jaghut as a race challenges easy categorization, embodying both the noblest and most tragic aspects of the Malazan world. Their story is a sad reflection on the cost of freedom, the weight of loneliness, and the eternal struggle against the darker aspects of power.